So the good thing about the 7 steps to a taken is that as you're dialing over and over and over again, you're going to potentially see your deals consistently go on pause or die at a certain stage. And it's usually connected to your confidence of where you feel that you can progress people to. And it's also could be, where am I going to ask for the most help from my coaches? That's a place where I feel uncomfortable. I'm not super confident in yet. And what ends up happening when we start like getting into this business and dialing, like we become very impatient and we want to be good at all 7. And that's just not how it works, right? You got to put repetitions into your first calls, into your follow-ups, get good on appointments, get good at understanding creative offers, get good at your contracts. That stuff happens over time and you have to be okay with that. But I think one of the most important things is that you become very intimate about what specific thing that you're blocked now, and then spend the next 30 to 90 days mastering that so you can move forward a click. Meaning now your confidence is here. Now I bring my coach into maybe the appointment area, which I'm not super confident. I don't have tons of problems with it yet, but I just noticed that I need more time here. So then you have your coach help you there, and then you're able to put these things into place, do them yourself, continually get better, find your confidence in that stage, because you don't move a step in the taken until you're confident of that piece. And then the things that you're not confident with, a lot of times I notice that you avoid. For me, and when I was not good at follow-ups, I was making more initial dials to try to find follow-ups. When I had to make my follow-ups, I was putting them at the end of my calling block because I was nervous of how to progress them past the follow-up because I wasn't comfortable yet. You're going to do that until you're confident, unfortunately. But if you're actively pursuing getting better at this thing, like you don't need to get great at 3 of the steps that are taken. Get great at one of them and ask for help for the ones after that you're not comfortable with. But be very specific about what you're going to be tackling in the next 30 to 90 days. And I can promise you, you will get awesome at that thing, but you have to be clear on what you're working on instead of looking at it as a whole, getting, psyching yourself out and then just kind of going through the motions just to do the work, to say you did the work like I've done before. I just got to make my 20 dials. I don't have to do anything special, but to make my 20 dials and I've succeeded, instead of I got to make my 20 dials, but specifically I got to focus on, the objection of when I explain a lease purchase and they ask me questions and I'm not 100% confident of the answer. Like, let me find out what those answers could be. And now let me actively practice those on the call. Like being very specific is going to really help your skill set over time. So first off, do you guys have questions about that? Is it things that you can relate to, or is there things I can help to pertaining to that? The 7 steps we're taking kind of tell a story of where you're at now. And the way that it does that, guys, is you're going to notice that when you're talking to any sellers, there's a pattern for you where deals typically die, go cold, fall apart. That just typically is telling you, or it's even, where am I asking for my coach to help me the most? Like, am I typically asking them to help me when I'm on appointments, when I'm on follow-ups, whatever it is. So if you can really take a hard look at your 7 steps to a taken and see where it is that you have this block, where you think that you're not capable of going past, or you're avoiding, going on appointments, you're avoiding writing up offers because you just don't feel comfortable yet. This is going to tell you not only where we can help you, but also where we need to focus on now. Because I'm all about, like, listen, you can't learn the 7 steps to a taken at once. It's not going to happen. You're going to get good at each step until you're all the way down the line. But when you're very cognizant of what it is that you need to work on, you can really put a lot of damage on learning something in like 30, 60, 90 days when that's all you're focused on. So I think it'll be a great exercise for everybody right now to really take a look at that 7 steps so taken and see where it is in those 7 steps where you start feeling uncomfortable. Where is it that makes you, kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies having to do that thing alone? Think of it as doing it alone. Like where are you having a confidence flaw in these 7 steps? And then we'll go ahead and as a coach and me working with you guys, we'll heavily focus on crushing that skill set so you can be one step closer confidence wise to being that transaction engineer you hear Chris talk about. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you focus on being really good at follow-up calls, I guarantee you that's going to be something you look forward to, right? Like, I'll give you an example. And this is a ridiculous, I've never heard anybody say the numbers that I'm going to give you. This is how bad I was at appointments. I'm a really outgoing person. I figured appointments would be easy. Nope, I was freaking tired. I went there and I turned into like a child. I'm like, I gotta just collect information and just zip, get out of this house as fast as possible before I screw everything up. That's how I did. I went on 45 appointments before my first taken because it was just this, it was the scary part of the 7 steps. I just had to fly through and thinking that I could fly through it. Right. And I'll still be, I was losing people after appointments. They were ghosting me at offers and stuff like that. This is going to happen to you guys of places that you feel uncomfortable and you're going to rush through it. And unfortunately, even if all the way up to that point, your seller's on this uphill slope of working with you and everything's going well, it's that dip that can be the difference of that connection. Something was off when I met him in person, right? And people care about their overall connection and chemistry with you when they meet you in person. That's when they feel they really now know you. So I'm obviously just referring to appointments area, but I think it's important you guys do this process. It's always really helped me. And also it gives you something to kind of drive for, right? You guys are doing things that are incredibly repetitious. And that, if you don't get creative enough or focus in the right ways, can burn you out fast. But if you say, hey, you know what, in the next 30, 60, 90 days, I'm going to get really good at follow-ups and I'm going to make sure my questions to my coach are based off of it. Like, do I understand the organization of the questions? What's the purpose of a follow-up call? What am I looking to achieve? Like when you start getting really intentional on it, you guys are going to make gigantic waves. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about that, and I'll obviously toss it back to you guys to go ahead and ask any questions that you want. But this is a very important part of sharpening skill sets. It's not looking at getting great at 3 of them at once. You can't give 100% when you're kind of like dabbling with all these things. Like, let's get hyper focused, deep and narrow, nail this thing, and then move on to the next. Does that make sense what I'm explaining?